Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to Rhythm and Soul. I'm Anuj Mithani, and it's my privilege to be sharing the stage with two people that have deeply inspired me. I'll begin with a quick introduction for our guest of honor today, His Holiness S.B. Keshava Swami. Born and raised in the UK, he graduated from the prestigious University College of London. At the age of 21, following a soul-searching trip to India, he decided to become a monk at iskcon's Bhaktivedanta Manor just outside London. 2 years ago, he accepted lifelong vows of renunciation, making him perhaps the youngest sannyasi in iskcon's monastic order today. He is, of course, a scholar, an author, a globetrotter, committed to sharing the ancient and timeless wisdom of our scriptures. He is a highly revered speaker across leading universities, Fortune 500 companies, governments, and of course our spiritual communities. Keshav Maharaj, welcome to the Imperial. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Right beside me is His Grace Purushottam Das, who doesn't need an introduction. He's now what I'd call an Imperial regular. He's of course a monk, preacher, an extraordinary master chef at iskcon's Radha Gopinath temple at Chowpatty. And he has regaled us with his soul-touching kirtans over the years, most notably at our Kirtan Fest that is held at this very venue. Stay tuned, that will see our 4th successive edition later this year, perhaps in November. May I now invite my fellow host, Anil Gupta, to offer a garland to Maharaj. Okay, so now after a hearty lunch, it's now time to nourish our souls. Over the next 75 minutes or so, we will have an interactive conversation touching upon contemporary issues and challenges in the pursuit of spirituality. The initial questions will be led by Purushottam Prabhu and myself, and then we will throw it open to you, our audience, for your questions, your comments, and your reflections. If that's okay, we'll slowly get started. I just wanted to add on behalf of all our hosts that we are overwhelmed by your turnout today. We are also deeply touched by the august presence of such senior brahmacharis, counselors and devotees present today, all under the able leadership of our fearless leader, His Grace Gauranga Das. With that, I would request Purushottam Prabhu to kick things off.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, first of all, my immense gratitude to you for being here this afternoon. It was a long cherished desire of so many to have you here and this day is actually a dream come true for all of us. I observed one thing here while Maharaj just entered. The one thing that struck me was that amongst the entire audience that we have, the august assembly that we have, you are the tallest of all. Of course, you are not just physically tall, but you are way, way, way spiritually ahead of all of us. And we need your deep insight, guidance to actually help us out. In fact, in a Hindi, there is a saying, बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ जैसे पेड़ खजूर पंछी को छाया नहीं फल लागे अति दूर. I'll just explain the meaning of this. It says that what's the point of being a very tall tree when that same tree cannot provide any shade or shelter to anyone? And what's the point of being so tall when no one can really catch and no one can really have the fruits that are hanging there up? But Maharaj, we have seen in your case that you are not just tall physically, you are actually so deep within that you have touched the hearts of millions all across the globe. And you are not only giving shade and shelter to people all across, but we are actually benefiting the fruits of all your hard work, sacrifice, and austerities that you have gone through so many years. A big round of applause for Maharaj once again. Without taking much time, I would like to ask you a few questions, with your permission and with your blessings. The first question to you, Maharaj, it's very personal. I hope you won't mind. How is it that a student of computer science and management ended up becoming a monk when in today's day and age, monks are being perceived and seen as parasites in society by some? Was there an epiphany, a moment of epiphany that made you take this decision? And of all the spiritual path in front of you, why did you choose only this one?
Thank you so much for this question. It's a question my mother has often asked me. Before I continue, I'd just like to say thank you to Anuj and Purushottam for your wonderful introduction, and thank you to all of you for coming this afternoon. It's really an honor for me to be here. Mumbai, I've been mentioning in the last few days, is like my spiritual home. When I was 21, I became a monk, as Purushottam explained, and Mumbai was the first monastery temple that I ever lived in. And here I feel like I developed my roots, my initial impressions in Chowpatty temple here. And so it's always a beautiful occasion to come back. And yes, I made that journey when I was 21. I decided, much to the shock of my parents, that I would not pursue a career in the corporate world, but instead I'd go and come to India and explore the spiritual path. I think pinpointing any one reason why I segued into this kind of life is difficult. The Bhagavad Gita explains that each one of us are spiritual beings, and this life is simply a chapter. So each one of us come into this world and we have different personalities, we have different inclinations, we have different feelings in our heart and are attracted to different things. And so for me, from a young age, simplicity, minimalism, and living in seclusion, solitude, these kind of things were very attractive to me. I saw people around me who were very successful. I was fortunate to grow up in a family where I received all the opportunities. But I saw relatives who had 2 houses, 2 cars, 2 phones, maybe too much. But still, something was missing in their life. And so something told me that there's something else we have to search for. So from a young age, I was reading into different books. And then when I was 15, I decided to open the Bhagavad Gita for the first time in my life. It had been a book which was present, but which was never explored in my family home. And so I picked it up at the age of 15, and thus begun my spiritual journey. And as they say in English, one thing led to another.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, your life story suggests that science and faith can coexist. Is that sometimes conflicting?
Yeah, in the world we're living in today, there seems to be this aggressive demarcation between science and spirituality. And people put you on the spot. Are you scientific or are you spiritual? Choose. But what I tell people is that science and spirituality are not opposed, but they simply function in their own domains. Science makes things better. Spirituality makes people better. Science teaches you about matter. Spirituality teaches you what matters. Science answers the questions. Spirituality questions the questions. Science will tell you the how and the what. Spirituality will tell you the why. And therefore, one scientist, he said, science and spirituality is opposed in the sense that my thumb and my forefinger are opposed. That opposition allows me to grasp things. And therefore, the Bhagavad Gita is actually a synthesis between science and spirituality. And when people ask me, what is this book? Then I tell them, it's not a religion, it's not a faith, it's not a sectarian culture, but it's actually a spiritual science.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, I was just wondering, what would you have pursued if you hadn't chosen this path?
Wow. Well, I studied computer science and management at university, and I had a job in the corporate world. I was to move into programming or software engineering, something of that nature. So perhaps my life path would have taken me there. And one thing I do want to share with you is that becoming a monk is a life path. But there can be many life paths. And it's not that one is inherently more spiritual than the other. In our communities, we have people who function in the corporate world, individuals who have adopted various lifestyles whereby they make wonderful contribution to the world. And all of those can be integrated with spirituality seamlessly. But for me, my path was a little different, and thus I became a monk.
Thank you for giving a very balanced one.
Maharaj, I think this audience is now very familiar with the saffron robes and the shaved head and the tika. But could you tell us a little bit about the stick? I've also heard that there's a specific backstory to this stick, if you could care to share.
Yes, this often shocks people, especially when you're 7 foot tall and you hold around one of these. So this is known as a danda, and this is the staff of a renunciate. So it's made up of 3 bamboo sticks, and the bamboo sticks represent the mind, the body, and the words. And when we accept vows of renunciation, then we carry the staff with us in order to remind ourselves that our life is now dedicated to serving others with mind, body, and words. Rabindranath Tagore, he says very beautifully, I went to sleep and I dreamt that life is joy. I woke up and I realized that life is service. I began to serve, and I realized that service is joy.
Amazing.
So we try to inculcate this very deep sense of selflessness within us, because they say you earn a living by what you get, but you earn a life by what you give. And so this is part of the culture that we try to instill deep within our own heart.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, many people today feel disconnected and disillusioned with organized religion. And I think there are a number of reasons. There are perceptions of rigidity, intolerance, even extremism and violence. In this backdrop, is it possible to be spiritual without being religious? I'm also reminded of chapter 18, verse 66, where Lord Krishna, I think, says to Arjuna, Sarva Dharman Parityajaya, which literally translates to abandon all varieties of religion and come to me. And I'm just wondering, did Krishna have the same concerns about the direction that religion was taking 5,000 years ago?
Yeah. Once we were doing an event and someone asked, I invited someone and he said, no, I won't come. I will not come. I'm not into organized religion. I said, don't worry, you love us. We're completely disorganized. So it's very interesting. People have huge reservations about organized religion. What I ask people is, I say, do you like organized airports? Yes.
Yes.
Do you like organized supermarkets? Yes.
Yes.
Do you like organized schools? Yes.
Absolutely.
So the problem is not organization. Organization helps us to achieve things, to get things done. But definitely, as soon as there's an organization, then there's the opportunity for many other things to come into play. Power, position, profit, prestige.
Right.
And therefore, these things then begin to cloud the original purpose of that organization. And so organized religion in and of itself is not a problem, but it's just ensuring that the purity of what that organized religion is meant to deliver does not become compromised in the process. And so, ultimately the word religion comes from the Latin ligare. Re means again, and ligare means to connect. So religion is that thing which allows you to reconnect with divinity. And so organized religion is just simply a group of individuals who are assisting and inspiring and encouraging each other to again reconnect with that divinity. That is what real religion is. So whether one wants to call themselves spiritual, whether one wants to call themselves religious, these are ultimately just terminologies. But the real thing is, what we're all seeking within our hearts of heart is to connect with something beyond ourselves. The famous Christian writer C.S. Lewis says, if I find in myself a desire which no experience of this world can fulfill, then I must conclude I was made for another world. And so, deep inside each one of us, we are seeking to connect with something higher. And whether you do it through religion, whether you do it through spirituality, whether you do it through yoga, is ultimately inconsequential. The main thing is making that connection.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, let's dive into a few conceptions or perhaps misconceptions about spirituality, and maybe we can do this in three parts. In the world today, when we look around, we see that the East is, spiritually affluent, but perhaps materially lacking. On the other hand, the West is prosperous, abundant, even hedonistic, but spiritually deficient. Can you actually progress materially and spiritually at the same time? Or is this some sort of trade-off which makes this a difficult and inconvenient choice?
The first and most important question to answer is, what is wealth? What is prosperity? What does it actually mean to be rich? What we tell people is that the richest person is not the one who has the most. The richest person is the one who needs the least. And therefore one can have so many things. But if there is a vacuum in the heart, if there is a feeling of emptiness, if there is still a need to keep searching, keep looking, then we can in one sense say that person isn't actually wealthy. And so it's not simply that material wealth, material prosperity, material opportunities make someone or make a country wealthy. Of course, every country, every person needs a basic amount in order for proper sustenance and security in their life. And each one of us in our lives, we need the same. However, simply increasing material prosperity may not necessarily increase happiness and may not actually be the measure of success that we want to pursue. And so, Srila Prabhupada, when he came from India to America, he married the two. And he said we should look at the technological, economic, and kind of infrastructural advances of the West, and we should marry that with the knowledge, the wisdom, the culture, the depth of tradition of the East. And if we marry those together, then it can be an incredible combination. And so, I guess that is a way forward, a progressive way forward.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, one more misconception or conception, as Anujji said. A lot of the people in this world have this feeling and this notion that spirituality is all about leading a virtuous life, be good, do good, at the max during the weekends, do some yoga, meditation, or during the weekdays, one of the days just avoid eating meat or alcohol. Maharaj, what do you think? Is this light touch approach enough? Or do we need a defined process or an institution? At the same time, is this substance more important than form?
It's a general rule in life that whatever you put in, that is what you will get out. If you invest more money, then you stand chances of earning more money. If you put in more effort into an endeavor, then the chances are you have much greater chances of success. And so, in spirituality, there's no defined amount which you have to give. If you're willing to try in a small way, by making small lifestyle changes, then that's very beautiful, that's very wonderful, and that will give you some level of spiritual satisfaction and well-being in your life. However, there are much greater things to be gained from the spiritual path. For example, I could give you a mobile phone, an iPhone 15. And if you like, you could use it as a door stopper. And it probably would work. But you'd look at me and say, is that the best use of an iPhone 15? You could use it for much more significant things. And so what we see in the world today is that people utilize spirituality. They utilize these processes contained within religious traditions, but they use it for a very lesser gain. And so, there's so much to explore, there's so much to experience, and there's so much to be gained in terms of well-being and happiness in our lives. But that means we have to delve a little bit deeper than just the cultural, than just the lifestyle, and actually get to the heart of the spiritual tradition. Like that.
Amazing, Maharaj. We hardly know how to really tap the real potential that we actually have. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Maharaj, the third part of this question is that different paths lead us to spirituality. I know that some of the people I'm sitting on stage with were perhaps self-realized or influenced by culture or tradition. But for the vast majority of us, it is usually a response to a difficult life situation. Maybe a personal loss or trauma, a health issue, maybe a setback in business. I come from this very school of hard knocks. If this starting point is somewhat compromised, does that muddy the waters or impact the outcomes in any way?
Once I was giving a talk, and someone in the audience raised their hand. And they stood up and they said, I have a question. I said, yes, please. This person said, Swamiji, do you believe in love marriages or arranged marriages? I thought, okay, maybe I shouldn't have asked for the question. So I looked at the person and I said, do all arranged marriages have love in them? He said, some do, some don't. I said, do all love marriages have love in them? He said, some do, some don't. So I looked at the person and I said, in one sense, it doesn't matter how two people get together. What really matters is what happens once they are together.
Amazing. Right.
So different people may come to religion for different reasons. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukratina arjuna artho jigyasu artharti jnani cha bharatar shabha. Krishna says some people come because they want wealth. Some people come because they are inquisitive, they want answers. And some people come because they're distressed, they want comfort. So whether you come to spirituality wanting prosperity, wanting answers, wanting comfort, what you then do in that spiritual practice going forward to actually understand the essence of it, that will define the quality of your spirituality. However, sometimes we have to go through a material breakdown to have a spiritual breakthrough.
Yes, Maharaj.
Because sometimes we need that strong understanding within us that the world and the way the world is wired and my current lifestyle won't bring me to the happiness and peace that I seek. And therefore sometimes the school of hard knocks awakens within us a wisdom which helps us to explore further.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, you have stayed in a monastery for quite some time, and we see that monastery is a very conducive environment, also a very insulated. Also, it gives us a good platform. It's a very insulated environment where you can thoroughly focus on your daily practices. But most of the people in this world, they have to juggle around with their work, with their aspiration, with their commitments and their obligation. Maharaj, can you please throw some light? Our audience would really like to know how can one practice this path in a very balanced and a practical way based on your experiences from staying in monastery.
Thank you so much. Most of the time in our life, we are judging our life by what happens between 9 to 5. We think that totality of life is what happens between 9 and 5. But what spiritual teachers explain to us is what may be more important is what happens in your life between 5 and 9. That's 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. If we use the time outside of our interaction with the world to re-energize, to realign, to rejuvenate, to re-inspire ourselves, then if we take that time outside of our interaction with the world to do these things and nourish our soul, then when we come out into the world, we'll have a completely different experience. So what I encourage people to do is to join the 5 a.m. club. So I tell people, you have to join the 5 a.m. club before you meet the 9 a.m. reality, or it will become the 12 p.m. catastrophe. So therefore, one practical thing that everyone here can do is try to take 1 hour of sacred time every single morning to basically nourish your soul. And sometimes people say, but what will I do in the morning? What do I do at that time for 1 hour? So I tell them 15, 15, 15, 15. 15 minutes, move. That doesn't just mean move out of bed. Move out of bed, move the body. Do some yoga, do some pranayama, get the blood circulating. 15 minutes, move. Then 15 minutes, meditate. Now you've energized the body, now calm the mind. Then I tell people 15 minutes, read some wisdom. Nourish your intellect with some higher dimensional insights. And then 15 minutes, reflect. Try to write a journal. Try to write some of your thoughts, your hopes, your fears, your observations, your aspirations in life. And like this, move, meditate, read, and reflect. And if you do that every single morning, day after day, for a sustained amount of time, then you will begin to see how your entire experience of the world begins to change. Because we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And therefore, if we cleanse the lens through which we see life, then we start seeing the world in a different way.
Maharaj, just one question in this connection. A lot of the people nowadays, you said join the 5 a.m. club. A lot of the people actually go to sleep at 5 a.m., especially in Mumbai. So can you please explain the importance of that 5 to 9? Why is it only 5 to 9? Can you please share that?
In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that in this world there are different energies. The whole world is energy. And Krishna says there are 3 primary energies which are functioning. Tamas means the ignorant energy. Rajas means the passionate energy. And Sattva means the illuminating energy. And therefore, these energies pervade everything in the world. The food that you eat, the clothes that you wear, the environments that you're in, and also the times of day. So it's explained that the first 8 hours of the day are sattva, illuminating hours. The middle 8 hours of the day are rajas, passionate energy. And the final 8 hours of the day are tamas, or the ignorant energy. So if one is wise, then what you'll do is when the energy is the ignorant energy, that's when you will use the time to rest your body. When the time in the day is the passionate energy, then you'll align yourself with that energy and use that time to get things done. And when the time of the day is the illuminating energy, that's the time when you'll step away and you'll try to upgrade, uplift, and elevate your consciousness. And therefore, have you ever tried to swim in a river against the current? Very difficult. But if you go with the current, it becomes seamless. So many people are only utilizing 10 or 15% of their potential because they're not aligning themselves with the energies that are in the environment. And so we encourage people, don't waste the morning hours. They are incredibly valuable.
Thank you for that insight.
Maharaj, I think intuitively most of us understand that a spiritual path is the right choice. But there are some real world obstacles that tend to come in the way, and we'd love to hear some of your thoughts on this. We'll again try and break this up into a few parts. The first observation is, Maharaj, it's very easy to practice spirituality in a steady state, when all is kosher. But when life doesn't go our way, that's when all this knowledge and philosophy comes to its real test. So, for me, if I'm, experiencing turbulence mid-air, I'm suddenly vividly imagining death. Or maybe perhaps for a business person here, one underhand maneuver by a competitor and then all fair play and integrity is out when you retaliate. How do we ensure that all this practice does not just disintegrate and fail when we truly need it the most?
The world we're living in is full of obstacles. But the world, I tell people, is perfectly imperfect. All of those challenges, all of those obstacles, all of those issues, and also that annoying boss, all of those people are there for a reason. However, we can only respond to those obstacles, we can only respond to those challenges, we can only respond to those issues in a progressive way if we have taken that time to uplift our consciousness. And therefore I said, you have to join the 5 a.m. club before you meet the 9 a.m. reality. Now, obstacles in the world are not your enemies. In spirituality, we learn the art of becoming comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's not that everything in life that happens is good, but something good can come from everything that happens in life. And so, through spirituality, we understand how every single challenging situation, every single challenging relationship, every single challenging issue is helping us to upgrade our life. Once a Christian monk, he prayed to God. And he said, God, I prayed to you for strength, and you just kept sending me obstacles to overcome. God, I prayed to you for love, and you just kept sending me people who needed help. God, I prayed to you for wisdom, and you just kept sending me problems to solve. And then he said, God, now I know you didn't give me anything I wanted, but you gave me everything I needed.
It's beautiful.
And so the struggle of life, once there was a man and he saw a caterpillar which was transforming into a butterfly, and he saw that butterfly struggling to come out of the cocoon. So it was struggling. So in his good-heartedness, he thought to just slit it open so it could just come out. So he slit open the cocoon, and the butterfly beautifully came out, and it started flying. But after 15 seconds, boom, it came crashing down. And then he realized, oh, it was nature's arrangement for that butterfly to have to struggle with its wings to open the cocoon, because it's that struggle which created the strength in the wings of the butterfly so it could fly in the sky. So therefore, we don't need to constantly think about how to leave the problems, how to run away from the problems, how to dull the problems. But through spirituality, we become brave and courageous enough to say, this has come to me. What can I learn from it?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Maharaj, the second issue in this regard is when we try to pursue something in material life, the goals are very much clear-cut. Not just that, the timelines are defined, and the progress also can be quantified. But when we try to pursue something in spiritual journey, we often see that the goal or the destination is quite hazy or nebulous. At the same time, many times it actually may take more than one lifetime to even reach your aspired destination. And we can't even quantify or measure the progress. So my question to you is, can we apply the performance metrics of this material world to spirituality?
Let me ask you a question about love. When a man and woman come together for a relationship, is there a defined time in which love should come about? Are there clear measures of how I can quantify your love for your partner? Is it that sometimes you fall in love and then later on you fall out of love? But does that make the relationship any less real? It's still a real relationship. It's still a real experience. And it's still something which defines you in so many ways. Spirituality is a science, but it's also a relationship. It's a relationship of love with divinity. And therefore it can't be mechanized. It can't be structured in a box. It grows and it takes its twists and turns and it evolves in its own beautiful ways. And the only really real way in which you'll experience that is if you go on that journey yourself. No one can tell you what that love feels like. You have to experience that love for yourself. And yes, you need some faith. But many of you here in the audience, you also had faith when you entered a relationship with your partner. Did you do a criminal record check on them first? Did you do a criminal record check on your partner? No. You were attracted. The heart was moved. And then you said, let's try. And now there's love. So it's the same thing in the spiritual journey. Something that's available for everyone.
So deep. Thank you so much, Maharaj. This was amazing.
The third observation is that can we actually be genuinely spiritual when pursuing our careers and business? Now, today's audience is drawn from industry, investment banking, private equity, where the definition of success is things like growth in revenue and expansion of margin and creation of value. Every day when we are living and breathing this mantra of maximization, how can we embrace the possibility that less is more?
You're asking someone who's never had a proper job in their whole life. But I can still speak from an authoritative position. There is a difference between growth, progress, and success. In the world we're living in today, people conflate these three things and think they're the same. So if I'm growing, then I'm progressing, and therefore I am successful. But what our spiritual teachers tell us is that there's a difference between growth, progress, and success. Growth means you're growing in your position, you're growing in your power, you're growing in your possessions, you're growing in your net income. That doesn't mean you're progressing. Because only when you're growing, but you add character, values, balance, lifestyle. In other words, it's not just it's not just growing, but it's how you grow. And if you grow in the right way, with character, with ethics, with all these things, then you progress. However, that progress in and of itself is also not success. when you use your progress in contribution, when you use your progress in spiritual service, when you use your progress to benefit others more than just yourself, then that progress becomes success. And that success brings happiness.
Wow.
And so, we call this the Dharma of capitalism. The Dharma of capitalism is earn with integrity and then spend with generosity. And if you add those two equations to your growth, then it will not be a hindrance to your spirituality, but rather it will be the most beautiful expression of your spirituality.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Maharaj, you just spoke about relationships. We know that this path of spirituality actually helps us develop a very deep relationship with the divine. But at a very practical level, can spirituality also help enhance, revive relationship, or even repair relationships amongst people around us, especially like our friends, colleagues, family members, or a broader community? Because today we see a lot of relationship issues.
There are different types of relationships. Let me share with you the mathematics of relationships. In the mathematics of relationships, 1 + 1 can equal 0. In the mathematics of relationships, 1 + 1 can equal 1. And in the mathematics of relationships, 1 + 1 can equal infinity. 1 + 1 equals 0 in relationships which are toxic. One person comes together with another person, and because they're trying to exploit each other, they end up destroying each other. 1 + 1 equals 1 in what we call transactional relationships. When two people come together looking for get some benefit from each other, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back, and they enter that relationship, but 1 + 1 equals 1. There's some exchange, but nobody really changes. But in the mathematics of relationships, 1 + 1 can equal infinity. When two people come together and see each other as spiritual beings, not someone to take from, but someone to serve, someone to nurture, someone to encourage, to empower, to inspire. And when two individuals relate to each other in such a selfless way, then 1 + 1 equals infinity.
It's beautiful.
So therefore, we have a vertical relationship with God. And then we have the horizontal relationships with the people of this world. If one is drawing love from their relationship with divinity, and their heart is filled with that love, then what happens is they can relate to all the people around them, not looking at what they can get, because they're already fulfilled. But they look at what they can give. And when they start doing that, their relationships change. In her monastery in Calcutta, Mother Teresa had a beautiful poem by her bedside. She said, "People are often irrational, illogical, and unreasonable. Be kind anyway. Sometimes the good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Sometimes even with the best of intentions, people will misunderstand you. Still try to serve anyway." And then she writes, "You see, in the final analysis, it's between you and God. it was never between you and them anyway.
Amazing.
So like this, relationships with family, with friends, with society, all of these things begin to transcend as we connect with divinity. And this is why spirituality is so powerful.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Maharaj, in your journey, I'm sure you must have come across many teachers who have inspired you, influenced you, nourished you. We just want to know your viewpoint about a need for a guru. Because in today's day and age, where there are so many gurus available on the social media who are there to influence us, but still do you think that there is a need for having a guru in our life?
Everyone will follow a guru. When we're born, our parents are our gurus. When we grow up and we go through school, our teachers are our gurus. When we grow up and we get an iPhone 15, then you know what happens. We also have a guru. Because we are constantly within ourselves trying to access knowledge beyond ourselves, trying to access something which will uplift and elevate and improve us. And therefore, therefore everyone will accept a guru. There's no question of it. And even if someone says, I don't accept anyone as a guru, I make my own decisions, then your own mind is your guru. One who accepts themselves as the guru accepts a fool for a disciple. So, having someone in your life, you know, the greatest gift you can have in your life is someone who has more faith in you than you have in yourself.
Amazing. Amazing.
That's a guru. A guru is someone who can give you a vision for your life that is much greater than what you could have come up with yourself. And therefore, instead of seeing a guru as something very limiting, something very rigid, something very almost suffocating, see the guru as someone who can unlock and open new worlds of possibility that you never knew existed. This is the most beautiful relationship you can have in the world. And this is available for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Maharaj, we live in an era of information overload, especially in the realm of self-help, personal life coaching and development. But curiosity or inclination does not always translate into determination or action. What steps can actually lead us towards true transformation?
There's two ways you can get blinded. Number one, if there's no light. And number two, if there's too much light. I'm not looking at these lights. Interesting, isn't it?
Yes.
You can get blinded both ways. So sometimes in the world we're living in today, it's an overload of information. I studied at UCL, I studied information management.
Yes.
Because it's overload of information. How many billions of emails are sent? How many news feeds? How many social media reels? Bombarded. You know how much information the average person processes every single day? 70 gigabytes. That's how much information is being processed in the brain every single day. So our mind is all over the place. They said we were nowhere, and then we progressed and we came somewhere, and then technology came and now we're everywhere. But because we're everywhere, we're constantly elsewhere. And therefore, we're practically nowhere. So that's what happens. So that's what happens in the world we're living in today. Therefore, our ancient teachers talk about learning spiritual knowledge is something like digesting food. The first thing you do is you put food in the mouth. Then at one point you close the mouth. And what you start doing is you start chewing. It's said that unless you chew your food 20 to 30 times before swallowing it, you can't really digest it. And therefore, first stage is to put the food in, second stage is to chew, and then third stage is to digest, and then allow yourself to be nourished. So similarly, here we are. This is like eating. Not just what you did before. But this is food for the soul. But it won't have its full benefit unless we all now go away from here and we begin to chew. We begin to deeply think, what does this mean for my life? What does this mean for me when I wake up tomorrow morning? When we do that chewing process, then what happens? We digest that knowledge. And then what happens is you transform your character. You become a different person. But if we just keep chewing and chewing, becoming consumers of information, then it's just like opening your mouth and just putting more and more and more and more and more and more. And then what? So therefore, we must become very thoughtful. We must think. But in an age of mass distraction, it's very difficult. But this is what the spiritual people do.
Thank you. Just to take a break, I hope everyone is awake here. Give a big round of applause for Maharaj. This was just a wake-up call after a very heavy lunch. So Maharaj, one more question which is very commonly asked. Maharaj, how do we reconcile with the existence of so much suffering and misery that we see in the world with a concept or an idea of a compassionate and a benevolent higher power?
When we see suffering in the world, it pains our heart. No amount of philosophy, no amount of logic, no amount of rationale that we give to it will pacify the heart. Because by nature we are compassionate beings, so when we see other people suffer, to any humane soul, it will be painful. However, we have to understand that even behind that pain, as difficult as it is for our heart to accept, pain also has a purpose. To understand the depth of the love of God, one has to understand the length and the breadth of their existence. I'll explain what I mean. The Bhagavad Gita explains that the length of our existence is longer than we think. This life is one chapter in a longer story. And what we're going through in this chapter is linked to things that happened previously. And what we're going through in this chapter has consequences which will play out in lives beyond this life. And therefore, to try to deconstruct the whole plot of a story by looking at one chapter is practically impossible. However, we must understand there is a backstory and there is a forward narrative. Understanding the breadth of our existence means to understand that we are not simply material bodies, but we are spiritual beings. And therefore, no matter how much pain is caused to this body, the soul is always protected by God. And so, when we understand the breadth of our existence and the length of our existence, then we can begin to understand the depth of God's love. Even when it seems like there are things happening in this world which are extremely painful. So, in the Bhagavad Gita, we have the concepts of karma and reincarnation. These are not concepts that we throw at people to judge them. Oh, you're suffering because it's your karma. No. But we understand that there is some reason why every soul has to go through these experiences. But as spiritualists, we're ever compassionate and we're ever soft-hearted to try to assist them in their suffering. Like this.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. The way you explained, that was far more convincing than what actually you spoke, because you spoke so much from your heart. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Maharaj, in this context, I'm reminded of the words of Hubert Reeves, the Canadian astrophysicist, who once said, and I will quote, "Man is the most insane species. He worships an invisible God but destroys a visible nature, unaware that this nature is his God." This tragic irony begs the question, can spirituality actually solve real-world problems like war or conflict or ecological degradation or perhaps hunger and poverty?
In our Eastern theology, we understand everything to be personal. Earth is not just a resource. Earth is the mother. Bhumi is your mother. The first step to exploiting something is to depersonalize it. The moment you depersonalize something, the moment you take the divinity out of something, then the very next step is that you will exploit it because you will simply see it as a resource. If everything is matter, nothing matters. And therefore, the moment we understand that the earth, the environment, is personal, it's divine, it's not just nature, it's divine nature, then it means we begin to interact with the environment in a different way. And so, when you go back to every single environmental problem, every single economic problem, every single social problem, and you take it back to its root, then you will see that the root of the problem lies in a lack of spirituality. Therefore, Albert Einstein said, you can't solve the problems of the world with the same type of thinking that created them in the first place. So it's materialistic thinking, it's mechanistic thinking that created these problems, and therefore you need another paradigm in order to counteract that problem.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. Because we have a few minutes left, Maharaj, with your permission, let's switch gear to a rapid fire round.
Okay, wow.
And
Shall we do some warm-up exercises for this?
I shall ask you a few questions, Maharaj. Sure. And whatever comes to you, whatever comes in your mind at the first place, our audience would like to really know your mind and heart.
Hopefully this won't end up on social media.
So, can we start, Maharaj?
Yes, please.
3 people who really deeply inspired you.
my mother, Gandhi, and Srila Prabhupada.
3 favorite books of yours.
Man's Search for Meaning, Think Like a Monk, and the Bhagavad Gita.
Maharaj, one verse from Bhagavad Gita that impacted you the most.
Right at the end of the Gita, Krishna says to Arjun, now I've given you all the knowledge, think about it, challenge it, analyze it, reflect on it, and then do what you want to do.
Maharaj, one daily habit that you can't do without.
Eating,
Happiest moment in your life.
graduating from university,
Sorry to ask this, a weakness that you are trying to overcome.
stop being judgmental of others.
The best advice you ever received.
Don't worry, be happy.
One thing that you dislike the most.
When I see people exploiting others.
Maharaj, if you had superpower, what would you ask for?
If I could get all these questions before you ask me.
Your core strength.
Consistency,
Any regrets you carry?
telling my parents I wanted to become a monk.
Maharaj, one word in which you can encapsulate spirituality.
Love.
One hope for the future.
More opportunities to serve people.
Final, one message for the entire audience.
Can you follow me on Instagram?
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Amazing.
This has been an absolutely fascinating conversation, Maharaj, and we expected no less. If it's okay, can we take maybe 10-15 minutes for a few audience questions? I know they'd love to ask. So we have some volunteers with mics. Yeah. And if anyone has a question, you could please raise your hand and I'll direct one of them to you. We'll try and let as many people participate as possible. Kunal Prabhu, the lady in the center.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Extremely grateful to Krishna for letting me be a part of today's chat. I've been a student of Prabhuji Nityanand Charan since the last 5 years. And I dare to ask him this question, but how do I join the 5 a.m. club? And another question is, we've been learning the Bhagavad Gita under his guidance the last 5 months. But there's a lot of unlearning to do when you're learning these things. How do you do that? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll kind of bring your two questions together and answer them in one. Bill Gates, he once said, we overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we underestimate what we can do in 5. Because what happens is we have this mentality within us of wanting to create a quick change, wanting to actually transform it and just get it done now. But actually, what we often underestimate is the power of incremental improvement. And therefore, whether it's getting up early, whether it's learning wisdom, whether it's changing any aspects of your habit or lifestyle, just do it bit by bit, step by step. And that means go to bed half an hour early and wake up half an hour early. And like that, begin to just shift your schedules back to where the ultimate optimum is. And if you do it step by step, then you'll be amazed at how much you can achieve. Sometimes people look at all of our books and they say, too many books, too many books. So we brought out an app and we called it Become a Sage, Page by Page. And what we teach people is that if you read this number of pages every single day, then you'll finish the book in this. And people are amazed to see the power of just applying yourself every single day. So therefore, it takes time to change. Habits die hard. Because even if you take the H away, still a bit remains. And even if you take the A away, still bit remains. And even if you take the B away, still it remains. Right? So habits take time. It takes time.
Alok at the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, superb. My wife and I, we teach breath and mantra meditation, and we have a living guru. The challenge is this whole expectation of instant gratification. So we have a 40-day commitment with our students. Once we teach you, do this for 40 days. And it starts very well, and then it starts to peter down. So just some guidance from you on how do we deliver them what they get on. So, everything is instant. I want instant joy, instant coffee, instant noodles. I want to give them something that just gives them instant faith to continue and then be on this glorious path. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. The tendency is we start. They say actually modern self-development is like a matchstick. What happens is you light it and immediately it begins with a big glow and a big fire and a big illumination, and then soon it starts to come down, 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 and if you keep your head, it will burn you, and then it extinguishes. And that's how a lot of self-development in the world, now they call it toxic positivity. Because it's claiming to help you do something, but you can't sustain it. In recovery programs, now addiction in the world is such a huge thing. And now in recovery programs, the only recovery programs which are practically in the world successful are the spirituality-based recovery programs. And the very first step is belief in a higher power. And so, whenever we try to train someone in new habits, in order for them to get that determination and that conviction to stay focused on the path, we don't just tell them the habit, but what we try to do is we simultaneously try to connect them with divinity, which will allow them to draw that inspiration to maintain that resolve. Because on our own fickle mind, we will trip up. But when we access power from a higher source, then we're able to continue on that journey. And so whatever you're trying to do, when it's accompanied by spiritual connection, then what happens is someone will have much more chance of remaining steady in that journey, because they're drawing from a higher power, like that. Is that okay?
Well, I think we had a question there. Yeah, Shalin.
Pranam. Sir, it's first is, can we get the Instagram handle after this?
Okay,
We
yeah,
all
sure,
want to-
sure.
Second was, you're quite right. I think because of the overload of information, there's a lot we're processing. My question revolves around humans are emotional beings as they stand. Even the spiritual path of connect is a very emotional connect that traverses beyond the way we are trying to put words. And daily life is also an emotional connect. So where my question stems is that as we move towards a spiritual journey, you're happier, you're more contented, you're more connected. and you feel more secluded, which is a very happy zone. But on the other side, you are practicing your life in a day-to-day journey where every reaction is which includes whether it's a day at work or a relationship, and it sparks an emotion.
Right.
So if I'm towards spirituality, I'd like to stay calm, balanced, reflect on it, and let that be the happy zone. But then I jump into a reality which again...
It's like an emotional roller coaster.
Exactly. What would you be able to guide us
Enjoy
a little
the
on
ride. It's amazing how we become so emotionally affected by things, isn't it? You can wake up in the morning and someone just looks at you a little funny, and then the whole day you're thinking, why did he look at me like that? It's like when you have a mango and the mango fiber gets caught in your teeth. The whole day, the tongue is only going there. So the mind is always like that. You see, spirituality is not devoid of emotion. Here we come to you teaching and sharing you the knowledge of the Gita. And the knowledge of the Gita is the knowledge of yoga, but specifically bhakti yoga. The yoga of love, the yoga of knowledge, devotion, the yoga of emotional expression. So emotions are not a bad thing. We want to laugh, we want to love, we want to live. These are very natural expressions of the soul. However, those emotions need to be redirected spiritually. So I will just offer you one thing which can really help you on your journey in order to regulate your emotions and redirect them. An African proverb tells us, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, then walk with many. And so, if you develop good spiritual friendships, if you develop close associates on this journey of spiritual life, and you share and you exchange and you open your heart to them, your hopes, your fears, your struggles, your successes, then in that emotional exchange with spiritual friends, what you'll find is that your emotions become spiritually refined. And you won't become emotionless, but you'll become full of emotion, but it will be spiritual emotion. And it will elevate you and inspire you in your life rather than hinder you. Okay, thank you.
We had Ayush in the crowd. Okay, we'll come back to you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Blessed to be getting the opportunity of listening to you. I have a bit of a confusion from childhood till now. When growing up, from the spiritual people and plus the elders like grandmothers, we always have heard, getting the birth of human being, you get the opportunity only once. So your best karmas you can do like spiritual reading, chanting, doing your good karmas only in human birth. So is it a fact that we are born only once as a human and the incarnation again will not be that as a human being? I mean, I would like to hear from you and take that belief actually till now and not be confused though.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Wonderful
you.
question. Really appreciate it. The Bhagavad Gita explains that there are 8.4 million species of life. Some are aquatic, some are trees, some are land animals, all kinds of different creatures. Just a side note, Sanskrit is a very beautiful language. The Sanskrit word for a land animal is mriga. Ga means to go, and mriga means one which goes on the land. So a land animal is known as mriga. A bird is known as kaga, one who goes in the air. So if a land animal is known as mriga, a bird is known as a kaga, then do you know what a tree is known as? Naga, no go. Ain't going anywhere. Staying in one place. Very interesting language. Very logical. So all these species of life are there. And what Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita is that we appear within one of these species according to our activities. And Krishna explains that once you come to the human form of life, then it's a very, very unique opportunity. Because a human being has intelligence, a human being has discrimination, a human being can ask the question, why? Why am I here? Why do I suffer? Why do people have to die? Why does this earth even exist? So therefore it's said that one who doesn't ask the question why is wasting their human form of life. So what Krishna explains is that in this life, if we don't ask the right questions, then we'll come back again. Krishna says you can come back again as a human. It's possible, depending on your karma. But once you have the human form of life, it should be utilized with great care, because it's an opportunity which was perhaps received after many, many millions of births. But yes, you can become a human more than once. Possible. Thank you. Just a side note on reincarnation in human births. This could only happen in India. Some years ago, there was a newspaper article in India where there was one man who remembered his previous birth. And in his previous birth, he was shot. He was assassinated. So that case was closed because they never knew who the killer was. So then he got reincarnated, and then he went to the police and he said, I know who killed me. I said, how do you know who killed you? Then how are you still alive? And he said, no, I'm talking about my previous life. Oh, okay, your previous life. So he said this was the person who perpetrated the crime. So the police began investigating it. They said, my God, it's like it all fits together. So finally there was a court case, and for the first time in history, someone was a witness in their own murder trial. Only in India. Nowhere else. This cannot happen anywhere else. So yes, it's possible. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So basically, I've become a father recently.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank
Wonderful.
you. So my question is, raising children today's time is so difficult, especially when they're glued on to their iPads and stuff like that. So how do you push them to the spiritual side, considering that they are only in their virtual world of iPads and PlayStations and all of that?
Good luck. No, I'm only joking. Yes, it's a big challenge. As I said, we live in the age of mass distraction. One of our teachers in our tradition, he says, for the first years of a child's life, you just have to give them love. Once the connection is established, then you give them discipline. And once you've instilled them with discipline and wisdom, you have to give them independence and friendship. Ultimately, even your own children, you cannot force them into any life. Every soul has free will. But as a parent, your duty is to give them the best opportunity possible. Sometimes, instead of trying to protect your children from the negative, which is practically impossible in the world today, because it's all there on the device. Therefore, instead of fighting a game that you're definitely going to lose, the better thing you can do is expose them to the spiritually positive side of life. Therefore, bring them to the temple. Let them learn this incredible, empowering wisdom from a young age. Let them chant the Maha Mantra and experience that spiritual power. And what will happen is that by focusing on the spiritual positives, then they will have enough wisdom, enough self-restraint and confidence in themselves to then look at the world and say, I'm not going to do that. That's not beneficial. And I'm not going to go there because that's not going to take me to my goals. So therefore, try to expose them as much as possible to spirituality. Thank you.
We had a question here. This will be our final question.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Danvar Pranam. Thank you so much, feeling so blessed to have your association. Maharaj, sometimes spirituality is like an uphill climb with progress seeming very slow, sometimes even reversed. And despite putting our best efforts, a lot of challenges. So could you please guide us on how we can stay motivated and not lose hope on this path? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Don't simply see how far you have left to go, but also appreciate how far you've come from where you were. You see? Sometimes we look at the ideal and we think so far away. But then we can, in those moments, take a look back and say, who was I 1 year ago? Who was I 5 years ago? And how far I have come. That means it works. That means spirituality has changed me. That means I have the power to transform. And that means if I continue on this journey, then I will get to my cherished destination. Krishna is very kind. He's not expecting you to be perfect, but he just wants you to try your best. When a plane goes from one airport to another, there's a flight path. And did you know, on any given flight, the airplane is only really on the flight path for about 30% of the journey. Most of the time it's either this side or this side because of wind and so many. But the incredible thing is, after 8 hours, footnote if it's Air India. No, I'm joking. After 8 hours, it still reaches its destination. Even though it was off the flight path for 70% of the journey. Why? Because the pilot was always coming back to the flight path. So just keep coming back and try your best. And then you'll reach the destination.
Unfortunately, we have come to the end of our session. We wish to thank all of you from the bottom of our heart for being here this afternoon and making this a very, very uplifting event. And Maharaj, we cannot thank you enough for gracing us and guiding us with such a profound wisdom, which was articulated with such clarity. May we request everyone to, again, please give a big round of applause for Maharaj.
Thank you so much.
Also, we would like to thank the organizers of this event, the 5 families who have hosted this event. I would like to just call out their names. Charu and Anil Gupta ji, Hina and Anuj Mithani, Kallolini and Kunjan Gandhi, Parul and Sanjay Thakkar, Yatri and Jayan Sangvi. We really wish to thank them and would like to just take 60 seconds of yours. Would really like to share this one thing that since last 6 months, we've been trying to just get in touch with Maharaj, and somehow finally we could actually have Maharaj today after such a long waiting period. And this was consistently being followed up by Mr. Anuj Mithani and Hina. Had it not been for them, it would have been actually impossible. So they have painstakingly really been following up with Mr. Nathani. So thank you, Anuj and Hina. And now over to Anuj for the final closing announcements.
I'll just take a quick minute. To all our audience, if you'd like to host or participate in such events in future or contribute to our initiatives in any way, please meet one of the organizers of the event today. We need all the support we can get to have such enriching interactions. Keshava Maharaj, we don't want this to be a one-off event. Audience, please back me up on this. Please spare time for us whenever you are in India, and we should do this more regularly, at least annually, if nothing else.
Definitely.
And we will track your calendar very closely.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You can follow Keshava Maharaj on his Instagram handle, which is Keshava Swami. You should also look up his 2 YouTube channels, which are an absolute treasure trove of content. One in his own name, at Keshava Swami, and the other one is at Wisdom That Breathes. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience. Have a wonderful weekend. Hare Krishna.